On paper, Meghan went to Fiji to support women entrepreneurs, but when she arrived at Suva Market, she saw something she didn't like. The women there were wearing UN Women t shirts. Her entire demeanor changed. She was scheduled to stay for 20 minutes and she left after 6. The official reason given was crowd control, but let's be honest, this wasn't about the crowd. This was about control. This is what narcissistic injury looks like in real time when admiration isn't guaranteed and someone else's spotlight is visible. And what follows? Disengagement, emotional shutdown, and a quiet but deliberate exit. Let's break down exactly what happened and what it tells us about image, ego, and the psychology of control. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. What I would like to do in this video is go through this article, and I'm also going to read a little bit from Tom Bower's Revenge that talks about this incident. We're going to look at a couple of video clips, and we're going to talk about narcissistic injury. So without further ado, let's start with the article. The article is titled, "Inside the Tense Moment, Meghan Markle Made a Swift Exit from a UN Women Event." 7 years on from Meghan Markle's curt exit from an event in Fiji, one question remains unanswered. Why did she leave, why did she leave so early? In October 2018, a clip emerged on social media of the Duchess leaving just after 8 minutes. She was due to make a 20-minute visit to the market in Suva, the Fijian capital, to see the work of Markets for Change, which was a project run by UN Women. So that's important to remember. This was a project run by UN Women. Rumors began to swirl that the Duchess, who had announced her pregnancy at the beginning of the trip, had become unwell due to the heat and humidity. Kensington Palace initially said this was due to uncomfortable conditions, but later added that the visit was cut short due to crowd management issues. The palace covered for her so much, and here's yet another example of the palace covering for her. The article continues. She said many ladies that were told they were going to meet Meghan didn't, and they voiced their disappointment afterwards. Later in this video, I'll show you clips of these disappointed women. I have 3 of them that gave interviews at the time. The article continues. After speaking for about a minute, she broke off and spoke to the same aide again before she was whisked out of the market very soon after. But in a revised version of his book, Battle of Brothers, royal biographer Robert Lacey suggested that the real reason behind Meghan leaving was due to the involvement of UN Women. In 2015, before she was dating Prince Harry, Meghan gave a keynote address on gender equality for UN Women in New York. Lacey wrote, Meghan had rubbed shoulders with the likes of Hillary Clinton and might have hoped to join UN Women's distinguished roster of goodwill ambassadors that included celebrities such as Nicole Kidman and Emma Watson. But in those pre-Harry days, UN Women only assigned the cable actress the lesser role of advocate. So this is where we're going to get into this narcissistic injury. Meghan thought she deserved something bigger or a higher title than she got. And I mean, tell me something that isn't new with Meghan, right? And it's just strange to me that this last statement, but in those pre-Harry days, they only gave her the lesser role of advocate. That makes it seem like had she been with Harry, they would have given her the role she wanted. And that gives me the ick. I hope that's not the case. The article continues, suggesting that Meghan's swift exit years later was down to what she'd seen as a snub. Lacey quotes a Los Angeles screenwriter who told him, Meghan does not cope well with rejection. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read that again. Meghan does not cope well with what she perceives as rejection. She's nice and smiley as can be until you step in her way or don't give her what she hopes for. Then she can be remorseless. Heaven help you. Wow. The article continues, however, a source told the Times that her decision to leave was down to UN Women and that Meghan had only agreed to visit the market if there was no branding for the organization. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, this was an event that was tied to UN Women. How could you make such an outrageous demand of people that they shouldn't be wearing any t-shirts that had UN Women written on it? Because they didn't give you the title that you wanted. And actually, isn't this proof of when Meghan doesn't get what she wants, the attitude comes out? It does. This is exactly that. The article continues, lawyers for the Duchess denied she had left because of the organization and said she met with other leaders from UN Women later in the tour. After the event, it emerged that a reporter who was on the trip saw Meghan turn and hiss at a member of her entourage, clearly incandescent with rage about something, and demand to leave. They wrote, I later saw that same female, highly distressed member of staff sitting in an official car with tears running down her face. Our eyes met and she lowered hers, humiliation etched on her features. We will talk about who I believe who they're referring to here. Now I want to read you a little bit from Tom Bower's Revenge that describes this same moment. And the passage begins. Meghan headed to a bustling Fijian street market for a 15-minute stop. About 1,000 people, mostly women traders organized in markets for change, were waiting. Within minutes, Meghan was unhappy. Many of the locals were wearing t-shirts emblazoned with the slogan UN Women. She had been brought to a project sponsored by her old organization. Unforgiving that Elizabeth Nyamyaro had refused to promote her to be an ambassador, Meghan berated Amy Pickerel for arranging the visit. Pickerel retreated to the official car where she was later seen, according to the Daily Mail's Rebecca English, with tears running down her face. Our eyes met and she lowered hers, humiliation etched in her features. 8 minutes after arriving, Meghan declared she was leaving. And by the time the entourage returned to their hotel, the female Metropolitan Police Protection Officer that was assigned to Meghan had decided to resign. There it is, different continents, different countries, that same bullying behavior, that same ego bruising. She just doesn't, like her coworker says, she doesn't react well to rejection. It's obvious. Now let's look at a couple of clips. So the first few clips I'm going to show you are of the crowds that were waiting to greet Meghan. So let's watch those now. Here they are, they're just happy as can be, excited, waiting for Meghan, waving British flags. Okay, let's stop here. So now this is the moment they arrive. The lady in the back wearing the white blouse and green skirt, that's Amy Pickerel. And when I was going through all of this video footage, I really tried to focus on Amy and see if you could see when this interaction took place, and I couldn't spot that moment. But Amy walks in looking okay, but then later on in other clips, which I guess basically I couldn't see any visible footage of Amy being upset. The other thing I want to point out is that the lady that's closest to us is wearing that UN Women shirt. You can see that it's emblazoned with that UN Women on the back. So anytime you see this navy blue shirt with the light blue design on the shoulders, that is a UN Women's shirt. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe two ladies over from this one, it looks like there's another person wearing a UN Women's shirt. Okay, let's watch the clip. So Meghan's entering. I think she hasn't yet noticed the UN Women's shirt, and I'm pretty sure this is, here, let me rewind it. This is the moment that she notices. And what I want you to see is that these two women on their chest area is where it's written UN Women. Meghan is not happy. This might be the moment of realization. She's looking around, and at one point she looks straight at that. Here it is. She looks and she has a complete mask slip.
Very quick. Only 15 minutes. Oh, I see.
She did not like that at all. Okay, now I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to show you some footage of the women at the Fijian market and their response to this.
Very quick. Only 15 minutes. Oh, I see. Only 15 minutes. It's no good. It's better take another time to come again, eh?
I expected.
to be a little more longer to see all the handicrafts of the woman in Fiji. I'd like she spent many times for us here in this market of Suva. They have to give some more times for us.
The sentiment is all the same. They should have given more time with us. She should have given more time with us. It's actually hard to watch the disappointment in these women's faces, how long they probably prepared and all the things they did behind the scenes to prep for this visit. Now what I want to do is talk about this narcissistic injury. This is a deep emotional wound that happens when someone with narcissistic traits feels rejected, criticized, or humiliated, especially in a way that challenges their inflated self-image. It's not just regular embarrassment or disappointment. It's a threat to their identity because narcissistic individuals often rely on external validation to feel worthy or superior. When that validation is missing, or when they're reminded of past rejection, it can feel unbearable. Here are a list of key traits that are tied with narcissistic injury. The reaction is disproportionate to the actual situation. It can be triggered by small slights like being left out, not being praised, or seeing someone else get attention. Common responses include emotional withdrawal, sudden anger or lashing out, blaming others, abandoning a situation to regain control, which is what Meghan did at the end. That was her ultimate step that she took. And finally, rewriting the narrative to avoid looking less than. And this is when it was said, oh, she left because of crowd control. There were too many people there. Too many people wanted to see Meghan. And that's why she left. Essentially, it's Meghan telling the world, if I'm not the most admired, most appreciated person in the room, I don't want to be at the room at all. If we turn this into a statement that Meghan makes all the time, I was just so happy to have a seat at the table. Well, Meghan, you should rewrite that or rephrase that, because if you're not at the head of the table, you do not want to be there. I like that, actually. That should be her phrase. If I'm not at the head of the table, don't even bother inviting me. I don't want to go. Now let's talk about the top 3 signs of narcissistic injury. There's a sudden emotional shift after what feels like a minor incident. They go cold, withdrawn, or hostile after something small, like not being praised, not being center of attention, or hearing mild criticism. An example could be you compliment someone else in a group and they instantly shut down or leave early. It's not the moment, it's the ego bruise. The second is rewriting the narrative to regain control. They walk out, lash out, or disengage, then later tell a version of the story where they were never hurt. They just had better things to do. For example, it's not that they were overlooked, it's that they were too important to stay. This protects their image at all costs. And finally, they could have passive-aggressive retaliation. They'll punish you subtly, ghost you, have sarcasm, guilt-tripping, all because you trigger their insecurity. An example is after not getting enough attention, they might forget your birthday or ignore a battle that you won, or a big win that you had. It's a quiet revenge for a bruised ego. Now I'm going to give you 3 ways to respond to narcissistic injury. The first is don't try to fix their ego. Avoid over-explaining, over-apologizing, or trying to reinflate their self-image, because it teaches them that ego maintenance is your job and that they expect you to do that every time they're wounded. Instead, stay neutral and let the silence be theirs to sit in. The next is hold your ground without emotionally reacting. Stay calm and assertive. Don't match their shutdown or guilt trips with emotional chasing. Narcissistic injury thrives on emotional control. Your calmness breaks that cycle. Instead, what you could say is, I hear you're upset. When you're ready to talk respectfully, I'm here. And finally, observe the pattern, not just the incident. Ask yourself, is this a one-time ego bruise or a repeated pattern of punishing me for their insecurity? Narcissistic injury becomes toxic when it's used to manipulate, guilt, or dominate relationships over time. Instead, set clear boundaries and, if needed, create distance. You are not responsible for someone else's identity crisis. You're responsible for your own peace. Meghan was there to support women until it stopped being about her version of empowerment. UN Women wasn't a threat. It was a mirror. It reminded her of a time she was publicly under-recognized. In her perception, she was under-recognized. So instead of participating in the moment, she pulled away from it. That's the pattern. When she can't control the narrative, she removes herself entirely. And doesn't this sound like Megxit? Understanding narcissistic injury, her early exit from Suva Market isn't just a royal scheduling issue. It's a psychological defense mechanism playing out in public view. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to reach out to them, and you'll find a link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. If this video was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.